So today when we add in our subtracting polynomials, we cannot just drop those parentheses until we have made it an addition problem, okay? So we're gonna rewrite our subtraction problems as addition problems. Add the what? Opposite. Yep, we change it to add the opposite. Now, when we're talking about a polynomial being subtracted, every term of the polynomial has to change to its opposite. Okay? Not just the first term of it, but if it's more than a monomial, then every term of that polynomial has to change to its opposite. And then we can just follow the steps we did yesterday for adding polynomials. So let's just dive right into practice here. How many polynomials do we have there in number 1? How many polynomials do we have? 2. We have 2 sets of parentheses, right? We have 2 polynomials. The first one is a what? The first one is what type of polynomial? It's a binomial, okay, and can you give me the name by degree also? It happens to be a quadratic binomial. And this one is a subtraction problem because we have subtraction in the middle, so probably the first thing you always want to do is circle what operation is supposed to happen, because then that will draw your attention to, I can't maybe just be so loose with this. And then what's the other polynomial, the polynomial that is being subtracted? What is that? Quadratic degree 2 monomial. Okay, so today I am going to ask that, like the key showed, I want you to keep naming these. Okay, I want you to give names to them so that you are getting better at this and not just hearing from one student. Okay, so because first thing we would do is if there's any subtraction within the polynomials themselves, we would change that subtraction to add the opposite. But these both happen to have addition. As Devin noted in the first one, it has addition. So we're going to just drop the parentheses for that first one. But to drop the parentheses for the other one, we would have to change it to addition, and then that piece, there's only one piece, it's just a monomial, changes to its opposite. So we add the opposite to only the 3x squared. And now we will just rearrange like we did yesterday, saying these guys are like terms. And what do we end up with? Negative 2x squared, because we have a 1x squared here plus a negative 3. And are those like terms? No. This would not become like x to the third or something, would it? So this is our answer. And now you tell me, is it in standard form? Should I have circled it yet?
Yeah.
Okay. And what kind of polynomial do we have here? Quadratic binomial, because it's degree 2, that makes it quadratic. It has 2 terms, that makes it binomial. Next question, what's the leading coefficient? Negative 2. Yeah. The coefficient on the first term, when it is in standard form, is considered the leading coefficient. So, okay, in number 2, I'm going to suggest that the first thing we do is there's a subtraction within a polynomial. This one has addition, this one has subtraction. So let's just change this, not dropping the parentheses. Let's just do this because I typically find that students do a whole lot better if they don't try and rush their way through these. So notice I did nothing with the subtraction between. So now I can, because I have addition in there, I can drop those parentheses. And because I have subtraction here, to drop those parentheses, I'm going to have to change to add the opposite. But not just the y squared is going to become its opposite, so is the 7 going to become its opposite. And now, rearrange to group some like terms together. So the 9y squared is like what other term?
Negative y.
The negative y squared, okay? So we'll kind of like use those guys up. I have next in, going in greatest to least degree, what term should we put next?
Negative 3y.
The negative 3y. So we've used that up. Are there any other y's? No. So this is a group, but we don't have anything to group together with that, and then we just have our negative 7. Okay. So what's our sum here?
8y squared minus 30y minus
8y squared plus this negative 3y can be written as minus 3y plus this negative 7 can be written as minus 7. That's right. So, is that in standard form?
Yes.
Yeah, because we did a good job of, while we were rearranging it, putting it in standard form right away, weren't we? Okay. Is it as simplified as it can get then?
Yes.
Okay, circle it. And next thing we're going to do is name it.
Quadratic triangle.
It's a quadratic. Why is it quadratic? Degree 2. Learn how to spell quadratic. Learn how to spell these properly. Don't give me, like insufficient spellings because they could look like what if you do. What could this one look like if you don't take time to try and spell it properly? Quartic, yeah, could possibly be misread as quartic, and I'd be like, you know what, I don't know what they mean, so I'm going to have to count it wrong on an assessment. Leading coefficient? 8. Okay. At some point, that leading coefficient thing is going to be an important thing, so we'll just, at this point, just keep identifying it. Okay, questions?
No.
Okay, the only thing I want you to do is, in this next one, is rewrite it only changing the subtractions within the polynomials. I do not want the parentheses gone in this step. Now I do realize there are going to be some of you that are like, I don't need to do this, and that's totally fine if you're getting the right answers, okay? But this should help us if we tend to find out that we're not getting good answers. Taking it kind of in a process like this should help. Okay, now, since I have addition in the first one, I can drop its parentheses. I still have that subtraction between the polynomials. So when I change that to add, what am I going to be adding? Negative 5m to the 4th. Plus what? Plus 5m to the 2nd. Plus 8. All 3 terms of that polynomial that is being subtracted have to change to their opposites. And typically what happens is students only change the first term of the polynomial to its opposite, and then it throws the problem up. Okay, what should lead off if we want to write it in standard form right away?
7.4.
Okay, those are the highest degree monomials. Okay, and we have over there, and we have them here. Okay, plus negative 5m to the 4th. What would come next?
Negative 2m squared.
Okay, plus the negative 2m squared. We don't have any m cubes. Do we have to? What do you think? Do we have to have m to the 3rd powers?
No.
No, nothing says we have to have every degree term. So we have this group, we have this group, and we just have the 8 left, right? So again, you should be able to, once you, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 terms in the beginning, there's 5 terms now that I have renamed it, rearranged it, all of the stuff. So what's our answer?
Well, 2m to the 4th plus 3m squared.
2m to the 4th plus 3m squared plus 8. In standard form?
Yeah.
Okay. What kind of polynomial do we have here then?
Quartic trinomial.
Quartic, why quartic?
Because it has
Because of the
4.
It's degree 4, okay, and it's a what?
Trinomial.
Trinomial because why?
There's
Three
three terms.
Because there's 3 terms. Okay. Leading coefficient?
2.
2. Okay, questions at all?
No.
Okay, so, even though for some of you maybe this seems easy, this is gonna be really important that you can add and subtract polynomial, monomial terms, whatever, correctly, because once we start multiplying, and then we're gonna also still be adding and subtracting, we need to make sure we're doing a good job of it. Okay, let's go to the back side then, where we have to set up our own polynomial addition and or subtraction. Okay, oh, there we go, okay. Okay, so, number 4, who wants to read that for us out loud? Okay, Andrew.
There are 2 boxes in a storage unit. The volume of the first box is 4x cubed plus 4x squared cubic units. The volume of the second box is 6x to the third minus 18x to the second cubic units. Write up polynomial for the total volume of the 2 boxes.
Okay, so we need the total volume of the 2 boxes. So total tells you need to do what?
Add.
Probably add, right? Okay. So we have the volume of the first box given to us as a polynomial. And why would it be cubic units? Volume is cubed. Yeah, volume is 3-dimensional, so cubic. The volume of the second box is another polynomial. Let's put parentheses around that, and that one is also cubic units, which would make sense. So we are going to show that we have a 4x to the third plus a 4x squared. Add to that the other volume, which is 6x cubed minus 18x squared. And we're going to notice that we have an addition. So what does that mean? We
Drop the parentheses.
we just drop the parentheses. We don't care about the parentheses at all. But when it's an addition of polynomials, we get to just ditch those parentheses. And in the process, I'm going to change my 18x squared, the subtracting of it, to an add the opposite. Okay, go ahead and finish that one up. See what you get. What'd you get, Josh?
10x cubed plus 14x squared.
You all agree with it?
No.
Oh, Andrew, why not?
We got minus 14x.
Yeah, it's negative.
Yeah, it's
X.
Negative, is that a big deal?
Yes.
Sure is, okay. Yeah, kind of a huge deal. So it's plus a negative 14x squared. And then that can, of course, be cleaned up in it. And is this in standard form if I just clean it up and leave it in the order it is?
Yeah.
Standard form?
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. And what would we do with that answer now? Yeah, we could circle it, but what else do we do with it because it's a word problem?
Yeah, maybe.
Some of you lose points on every quiz because of this. Label it. Cubic units. We're losing those easy points. Okay, so let's look at number 2. Or 5, I mean, not number 2. I looked at that x equals 2 and okay, I'm gonna divide up my problems here. Who wants to read this one besides Andrew? Somebody else? I'm gonna read. Josh.
The recreation field at a middle school is shaped like a rectangle, with a length of 15x yards and a width of 10x minus 3 yards. Write a polynomial for the perimeter of the field, and calculate if the perimeter is x equals 2.
Okay, so I would suggest that we find a perimeter statement for this first, because it says right here, write a polynomial for the perimeter of the field. When they say write a polynomial for the perimeter of the field, they mean a simplified, you've done everything you can do it to get it as few terms as possible and in standard form. So, perimeter, how do we find perimeter of a rectangular field?
Length times 2 is width times 2.
2 lengths and 2 widths added together. Okay, so we need 2 of these, of each of these, right? So we need 2 times 15x, plus we need 2 10x minus 3. Now, could we also just write it 15x plus 15x plus 10x minus 3 plus 10x minus 3? That is really a messy 10x minus 3. See if I can get the board to cooperate better. Okay, there we go. Okay, so, but we know how to do distributive property, right?
Yep.
Okay, so 2 times 15x is 30x. And 2 times 10x minus 3 is 20x minus 6. So we just did distributive property. Here we're not really doing distributive property, we're just multiplying 2 times 15. Okay, we like terms right here. So how many x's?
All 50.
50
Minus
minus 6.
yards.
So this is our perimeter, so let's put it in parentheses. I don't like that they didn't up there because sometimes we could think that just the 3 would be the yards in this 10x minus 3, but it's really the whole polynomial. So we're going to say yards, because when you add yards to yards to yards to yards, you get yards. Okay, no multiplying going on there, right? Okay, so here's our first answer. So when they say, write a polynomial, you don't get to stop here. You don't get to just write the setup, you have to actually simplify it. Do the adding, do the subtracting, whatever it is you have to do. Then it says, then calculate, then after, okay? Then means after, so then calculate. So we have 50x minus 6 when x equals 2. 50 times 2
50.
minus 6. 100 minus 6,
94.
which is 94 yards. Okay, now, what should be true? If we did this correctly, how can we make sure that we have a good polynomial?
Could you put it into the equation? No.
Can we go back up here and say the length was 15x, so 15 times 2 is 30, and we got 2 lengths in a rectangle, right? So 30 plus 30 is 60. Okay, hold that thought for a while. And now we have that 10x minus 3 width. So 10 times 2 is 20, and 20 take away 3 is 17, but we have 2 of those widths, so 17 plus 17 is 34. And what was I having you hold? 60. 30 plus 6, 34 plus 60 is
94.
I guess we did a good job with our polynomial. Okay. Questions? Okay, the next one is rather interesting. 2 cabins on opposite sides of a river are the polynomial 12x squared minus 7x plus 5, let's put that in parentheses, please, feet apart. One cabin is 9x plus 1 feet from the river. Let's put that in parentheses also, 9x plus 1. So one of the cabins, its distance is the polynomial 9x plus 1 from the river. The other cabin is 3x squared plus 4 feet from the river. So its distance from the river is the polynomial 3x squared plus 4 measured in feet. Write the polynomial that represents the width of the river where it passes between the two cabins. Then calculate. Okay, so right now we are going to, let's underline this. Write the polynomial that represents the width of the river where it passes between the two cabins. I think putting some stuff on our drawing would be helpful. Two cabins on opposite sides of a river are 12. So these guys, let's kind of go from the center of each cabin. They are 12x squared minus 7x plus 5 feet apart. Get some my little, well, this a little bit long here. We don't kind of go to the center. Okay. Then it says one cabin is 9x plus 1 feet. Does it matter which one, do you think? No. Okay. So one of them is, and we're going between the two cabins, so we're saying this right here, this part, now you don't have different colors like I do, so maybe you want to use a different part of the cabin. Maybe you want to go from the roof down and the roof up, whatever you want to do, okay? So it is 9x plus 1. And then the other one is 3x squared plus 4 feet. Okay. Well, guess what part we're finding? The width of the river. So right here is really where we're finding that. We need that distance right there. So you can circle it, whatever, highlight, whatever. You can come get highlighters if you want. So we have to write a polynomial that represents that width. What do you think we could do?
12x squared minus 7x plus 5. Subtract the two distances.
So the total distance between the cabins, take away their distance from the river, should give us what's left for the river. Okay, so we would say 12x squared, oops, that's a highlighter still. So we would say 12, and are these parentheses going to be important? Yeah. 12x squared minus 7x plus 5, subtract. Would there be a couple of different ways to go about this?
Yeah.
What could you do?
9x plus 1 plus 3x squared.
You could add their two distances from the rivers together first and then subtract, or you could subtract each of them kind of individually. You make one long statement here. So let's do that. 9x plus 1, and then we also have to subtract the 3x squared plus 4. So we have the total distance, subtract those two distances, each of them are from the river, because their distance from the rivers combined plus the width of the river should equal the distance between the cabins themselves. Okay, go ahead and do that. Let's see what we all come up with. still your answer?
Thanks. Right.
I'll just put it there with my work and then we'll decide if it is or not. You have.
Yeah,
Who doesn't have it?
I did.
You don't need the 5.
Yeah, the 5 is
If 5's not on there, you want me to just the -5? So I'm gonna erase this part. Is that what I'm hearing? Do we agree with that?
I got a plus one.
But so I get a plus minus
Plus
5.
one. Isn't it 5 plus -4?
Yeah, it's,
So it'd be
because it should be 5 minus 4. When you said just now. You must have done something wrong there.
Yeah, where's that -1?
It's from the 9x plus.
Yeah.
I get a -1, but then when I do mine, I get a plus 5 minus 4.
Negative 1's right.
And then that would simplify down to 1, so then you get a -4 minus 1, which would be -5.
Wait a minute, you just said that -5
yeah.
minus 4 would be 1.
Yeah, it's.
And then 1 minus that other one would be nothing.
There is something here, because.
So it's, so the important thing is that we understand that when we change this to add the opposite, this became a, instead of being a positive 1, it became a negative 1, right? And this here, instead of being a positive 4, became a negative 4. And did this one need to change?
No.
No, 1 in the first polynomial does not change because it's not being subtracted, right? So I have a 5, I have a -1, and I have a -4. Well, this right here adds up to what? -5, and the -5 added to its opposite is 0. I'm going with my answer. Sorry. Okay, so this would be the what? This is the, what's it, what did we just find though? The width of the river, yeah, we just found the width of the river, and what was all this measured in? Feet. So we just found, and let's just put that here, after we circle that, let's just say this is the width of the river. And we were finding it specifically between the two cabins, where it passes between the two cabins, so we don't need to put that part. Okay, and then it says, then calculate if the width is 3. Well, that's going to be pretty easy, isn't it? 9x squared minus 16x when x equals 3. So 9 times 3 squared minus 16 times 3. 9 times 3 first and then square that?
No, 3 squared times 9.
3 squared first, so it's going to be 9 times 9 minus, what's 3 16ths? 48, okay. And 9 times 9 is 81. And 81 take away 48 is 33 feet. Okay, our second answer. This one has 2 parts. Okay. Now this one would take us a little bit more to make sure that we had a good polynomial, so we won't work that hard. Okay, questions, anyone? I'll leave that up there for a little bit so that if you weren't successful with this, you make sure you have good notes there, okay? So it's a book assignment today again, back to a book assignment, so you should out loosely and you should write all the headings properly so that you do the right problems.
Find where I went wrong, because I didn't really know this. So I did the first one, so I passed it, I always have that answer. Just wanna make sure I did it. Yeah.
Do you have anyone wanting or needing to math test yet? Do you do it now or do you want to do it? No. You can write it down first and then go around.